Hello and welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch and review and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. I'm Chris, back again this week with Patrick.
Hey.
And Steven.
Hello.
And it's not Halloween anymore, unfortunately.
Sadly. We
are in November. We're going to try to keep the Halloween spirit alive a little bit with this episode. But did you guys have a good Halloween? How does one celebrate Halloween during a pandemic in your neck of the woods, fellas?
I didn't really. I slept most of the day on Halloween, and then I woke up the next morning and it was snowing. So seems fitting for this year.
I just had like a very small group of people, like Quarpod, like 3 people over for an actual like quasi Halloween party, and watched like a zillion more horror movies than usual. Not going to get into the details because there's just too many. I'm going to plug a Junji Ito book, though. I read some new Junji Ito. It's called Gyo, Gyo. It's about a swarm of legged killer fish who swarm Japan. That in itself is pretty awesome, but even better than the main story is a little backup story in the back called The Enigma of Amigara Fault. And if you want to be a cheapskate...
Oh, I've read that one.
Yeah, if you want to be a cheapskate, you can find this shit online for free. It's a PDF. It's like 20 pages. And it's one of just, I've talked about this guy on this show before, but of the many weird and horrifying little bite-sized concepts he's come up with, this is my favorite one. Basically, people-shaped holes appear in a mountain, and people are just drawn to like walk into and then like wedge themselves into their holes. And it gets fucked up from there. But
it's pretty spooky shit.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights of my pandemic Halloween. How about you, Chris?
Oh, my Halloween was mostly a bust. This is the second year in a row where I've had really pressing shit going on that happens to fall on Halloween, so I didn't get to really do too much Halloween stuff. I was out and about in the community as trick-or-treating hours began, and I saw, a little bit of Halloween spirit. We had uncharacteristically balmy weather on Halloween because we live on a dying planet, and I saw kids frolicking around and people trying to have socially distanced or not socially distanced candy delivery. I came up with some ideas for like if I ever own a house, how I want to do trick-or-treating. I had an idea of having because a lot of people were like putting shit out at the end of their sidewalks or whatever for kids to collect. I want to make a web, like a spider web at the end at the sidewalk in the front of my house, and it'll be made out of like rope, and the spider web will have different treats and snacks attached to it, like with clothespins. Actually, it won't be right on the sidewalk. It'll be kind of halfway between the sidewalk and the house. So kids will come up and they'll get their candy, but then while they're getting their candy, I got a big spider on a pulley in a tree that comes down, either comes down on top of the spider web, or it comes down quietly behind them, so when they turn around to leave, it's there.
That's dope. And like, this might be a liability, but with some equipment and some rope, you could actually make it climbable. Like the treats, the low hanging fruit gets eaten up early. The longer the night goes on, the higher you have to go into the web.
But it's sticky, so if you get to a certain part, you just get stuck and you're writhing. Anyway,
that also reminds me of the other hallmark of my quarantine Halloween, which is I just bought and ate an obscene amount of Halloween candy. I do that any Halloween, but there's still so much fucking Halloween candy left at my house. So like literally, if any Amon listeners out there need some candy, you know what? This is a serious offer. Give me a mailing address. I'll mail you some candy.
Don't accept candy from strangers on the internet.
Especially during a
stranger.
Especially during a pandemic.
Family.
Make sure you microwave it after you unpackage it.
Every Halloween, Patrick reenacts Cool Hand Luke, but with Reese's eggs instead of hard-boiled eggs. Eats 40 of them at once.
Cool Hand Luke is a blind spot in my film knowledge, and I'm so sad right now that I'm not getting that joke.
Well, he has to eat he says he can eat 40 eggs in one sitting, and everyone's like, no way can he eat 40 eggs, but I'll be damned, he eats 40 eggs.
Dude, my record in like a single sitting during this whole quarantine Halloween shit was, I forget, it was either 30 or 40. I mean, even 30 is horrifying enough, but I just, like, in the space of a half hour, I'm not even kidding, I ate 30 pieces of candy at least.
Are we talking
this is why
like
I need
individual?
people to take it off my hands.
Are we talking like individual Skittles, or like 30 like fun-sized bags or treat-sized pieces of candy?
This is a very good question. Thank you for asking. 30 like fun-sized little candy bars, like the square, like Reese's, Snickers. Well, the Reese's aren't square, but square Snickers, Milky Ways, whatever.
I like that you had to. I like that you had to make sure that you involved the geometry of the candy in your response, just so that our listeners have the most accurate picture of the horrible shit that you put into your body.
Well, yeah, I can't have them thinking that I ate any of those square Reese's.
Yeah, the more corners on a treat, the worse they are for your digestion.
Well, if you don't chew them, certainly.
Yeah, but I mean, so honestly, one of the highlights of my Halloween was I got home and opened the windows to get a little bit of a cross breeze, and I watched Hubie Halloween.
And that was a highlight. I just want to clarify that you did say that.
Hubie Halloween on Halloween. It had been something I was curious to check out for some time, and I gave us the homework assignment to watch it, so I figured no better night than Halloween. So I went into this movie really in the perfect. Other than the fact that I didn't have like children watching it with me, I watched this movie under the perfect conditions. Halloween night.
This is not a film for children. I'm glad there were no kids sitting on the couch with you.
I don't understand who this movie's for, to be quite honest. I think it's people who are nostalgic for like classic 90s, 2000s Sandler stuff.
Well, look, Adam Sandler signed like a 30-picture deal with Netflix a few years ago.
Yeah.
So he's got to make something. Of course, Adam Sandler coming off of a critically acclaimed, brilliant performance in best film of the 21st century, Uncut Gems. I'd like to think that maybe what was going on here was like a Schindler's List, Lost World situation where he was like shooting that movie, Uncut Gems, and he got too deep into the depraved mind of jewelry store gambling addict Howard Ratner and the pulpy mob stories in that film, and then at night he'd go onto the set for Hubie Halloween and do this shit to blow off steam.
Serious question here. Were Schindler's List and Lost World shot like at the same time?
Yes.
Like simultaneously? That's wild.
I don't know if it was actually shot, but it was they were definitely working on them at the same time. I know Schindler's List was shooting maybe while Lost World was in like pre-production or something, but I've heard anecdotes that like, yeah, Steven Spielberg would go do Holocaust by day and then he'd just like decompress, like making Big Dinosaur eat the car.
Damn. Well, I mean, speaking of how one went into this movie, Chris, you said you kind of watched it with the perfect frame of mind, and I came into it with what I feel is a fairly unique frame of mind for, I guess, people of our generation at least. I had never seen a Happy Madison film before. I had seen fucking Punch Drunk Love, I'd seen Funny People, Uncut Gems. I've seen some Adam Sandler movies, but I'd never seen a Happy Madison film before, so I walked into this with so little context for just sort of the trappings of these films, I guess.
That's insane.
That's totally insane. I'm glad we can have such a highbrow perspective on this episode.
That's like that's like being a fan of every band that Slash was in except for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, actually, this is kind of like a Freaky Friday episode because I feel like Chris and I often represent the sort of like populist, like trash perspective on this podcast, and this week I guess I'm the ostensibly refined one, and you guys are the ones who come into this with, I mean, at least I assume some knowledge of this. I feel like I should just call it a genre.
It is a
Happy
genre unto
Madison
itself,
picture.
I think. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I haven't really gone deep in the Adam Sandler discography. I'm thinking about slash filmography. He's actually Happy Madison has produced a lot of shit, and actually, this is something that's kind of interesting about Adam Sandler as a businessman and Happy Madison. Like for the last 15 years at least, it feels like this whole production company exists just to like so that Adam Sandler can just hang out with his friends and they can get paid and have a good time
and go to cool places.
Places, yeah.
Vacations.
Exactly.
It's a well-known vacation machine for him and his buds and his family.
Yeah, which good for him.
Fine, I guess. Yeah. So, Hubie Halloween. It's about a town idiot, and there's a madman on the loose on Halloween
I don't even know
night.
if he's an idiot. I don't know if Hubie is an idiot.
No?
But he's definitely
he's an idiot. Come on, dude.
He's definitely a square peg in a round hole.
That's for sure.
And he has a day job. He works in a deli, and he loves Halloween. He lives all year for Halloween, and he is a loser by any metric, any conventional metric. He's a grown ass man. He lives with his mother. Doesn't seem to have a lot of friends. Certainly doesn't have any romantic prospects. He's the joke of the town. Everyone picks on Hubie.
He's basically the Pee Wee Herman of Salem, Massachusetts. More like a nightmare version of Pee Wee Herman, I guess, because Pee Wee's like consistently endearing even when he goofs up. And there's so many times, basically the whole movie, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about Hubie. Like 1 minute he seems like a disgusting jackass, and then the next minute he's like this, like virtuous. What's the word I'm looking for? Virtuous. Like he's almost like the town mascot, except everybody hates him. It's so weird. I don't understand what this character is supposed to represent.
I mean, you're thinking about it too hard. He's supposed to be likable. You're supposed to come because it's Adam Sandler and appreciate him being funny and silly.
But he's so like repugnant though. I mean, like seeing his fucking like eating his gross ass soup, seeing his like piss stained sheets on the lawn. Like
He's a loser. It's not a character portrait. Have you seen Uncut Gems, Steven?
I've seen half of it. I need to fix that.
Okay. Well, I don't know why I brought that up, other than that's a more repugnant character, probably. But we're supposed to like him, and he's just doing his thing. He's clowning around. There's real life spooky shit happening in this town, and he's kind of like elected himself permanent hall monitor of Halloween. So he goes around and he kind of spoils the fun when kids are drinking or whatever. But the issue with this movie, and you see it if you watch the trailer, is he uses this fucking voice the whole fucking movie. I had to put subtitles on.
We did too. I watched this with Patrick, and like I can, normally the voice is annoying, but you can understand or comprehend what he's saying. This is the first time that Patrick asked to put, or anybody has asked to put subtitles on during an English language movie, where I was like, oh fuck yeah, oh hell yes, I need that too.
Well, and this is, okay, so here's me being like Happy Madison Babe in the Woods. This is a recurring thing, right? This is a voice he's done for other characters.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is. And I'm thinking, again, my Adam Sandler knowledge is not very deep. I think he did a similar voice, at least in like Little Nicky, in which he played the son of the devil. But the thing in Little Nicky...
I've literally never even heard of that. That's insane.
I saw that opening night in theaters, man. I used to be a fan.
He plays the son of the devil. He's on Earth to do some mission. The devil's played by Mel Brooks in that movie, I believe.
Wow.
Appropriate.
Ozzy Osbourne is in it. During the climax of the film, Ozzy eats the head off a bat. Actually, I think he eats the head off the villain of the movie. He might eat the head off Mel Brooks. I don't remember. But Adam Sandler has this distinctive voice the whole movie, but there's a reason, because he was like hit in the face with a shovel or something, and he has like a permanent, his face is kind of like this, and he talks like this the whole movie, but it's motivated by the background of the character.
To me, the character of Hubie Halloween, like the voice and everything, just felt as though I was watching a live-action Homer Simpson movie, except written by someone who only finds the stupidest things about Homer funny.
In other words, anyone who's written on The Simpsons for the past 15 years.
Yes, sure. Oh God, I just tipped my hand. I've been neutral so far, and I just started to weigh in on the quality of this film for the first time. I feel like I deserve a medal for making agnostic comments for 10 minutes or however long it's been.
Well, I made up for you.
But yeah,
okay. Look,
the whole fucking we cannot stress this enough. The whole fucking movie, he talks like this. He talks like this the whole fucking movie.
I was gonna just address like the quote unquote plot of this movie. All right, here's another interesting.
I'm gonna talk like this for the rest of the show. I'm gonna talk like this for the rest of the show.
Me too.
Okay.
Here's an interesting note about the frame of reference that I have for this movie. As Steven mentioned, I watched it once with him. It was Friday night. We were having a bunch of beers. We were talking through the movie, and I didn't like the movie then. I found it confusing, but I was like, shit, I didn't really process this at all. I really need to give this a second chance. So I've watched this movie twice in the past 4 days or however many days it's been. And it did not make any more sense the second time around. This is a fucking fugue state of a film.
Oh, there's no momentum. There's not really like a very well-defined arc. Things just happen. There's some conflict, but there's very little build-up to it. This is just a hangout movie, basically. It's even more of a hangout movie than any other Adam Sandler film I've ever seen.
Yeah, we just kind of like mosey from scene to scene. You know, new characters show up, new celebrity cameos. And I mean, certainly comedians, people who I like, show up. You know, fucking Maya Rudolph shows up. Love Maya Rudolph. But does she do a goddamn thing in this movie that's memorable or even funny? To me, no.
This is definitely a things happen movie. Things just happen. There's no story. There's no story at all. I watched this movie.
That's pretty good.
I watched this movie for 45 minutes, waiting for the plot to develop. Didn't happen.
Well,
you kind of sound like you're doing like Hubie Halloween doing an impression of Barack Obama.
Let me be clear. We deserve a vote.
So we get what turns out to be a major misdirect in the beginning of this movie. Adam Sandler goes in to check on, or not. I'm sorry. Ben Stiller goes in to check on. He's the first person we see in this movie, I think. He goes in to check on an inmate at an insane asylum who has escaped and left behind a fake body full of Jell-O and hot dogs. And you can bet one of those hot dogs takes the form of an erect penis on this body because it's an Adam Sandler movie. And you spend like the first hour thinking like, oh, there's going to be a depraved lunatic on the loose. People are going to die. They're going to go missing. And there is a little bit of a... You know, somebody does go missing. There's not really any violence.
A few people go missing.
A few people go missing, but like by the time that's happening, we very soon find out that it's not that the inmate doesn't really have anything to do with it directly.
Well, yeah, and the depraved inmate turns out to be kind of a total red herring. Maybe intentionally, maybe this is a secret success. Maybe it's actually a brilliant screenplay. But yeah, the whole depraved inmate, people disappearing subplot goes almost nowhere. However, I did have a lot of fun when we were watching the movie, and later I ended up syncing up and watching the movie the second time with another friend, and I really enjoyed playing the game of what shitty comedian is going to be the depraved inmate. Chris, did you have any guesses on this?
No.
Were you even thinking about this, I guess, is the real question. Also, I think we should save the reveal of who it is for the spoiler room. I think that's the key spoiler.
Oh, of course.
But we should mention our guesses, though, at some point. Because I thought they were all excellent.
Oh, yeah.
And all wrong.
I didn't have any... I mean, no. I mean, obviously, you got the spooky... The inmate where I forget even where that goes. But yeah, Steve Buscemi plays a very interesting character. In fact, he steals the show, in my book.
In mine,
agree.
too. Yeah.
Steve
100%.
Buscemi plays a werewolf and really uses his comedic chops, which, you know what, I tell people, no one listens to me. Steve Buscemi is one of the most underrated actors working today. The man has range. The man can do it all.
And he's been in several Happy Madison movies, and he's usually the highlight. You know,
You're
even
right.
when he only has like a cameo, he's the funniest goddamn thing in the movie.
Yeah. Of course, I was hoping Ray Liotta would be the villain, just because Ray Liotta, great villain.
Wait, so Chris, are you saying that you suspected Steve Buscemi was actually the madman?
I wasn't interested in who was the madman as much as what's the conflict in this movie and like what's the connection between these characters. And spoiler alert, there really wasn't any.
There's not, because like everybody is set up to be kind of, everyone aside from Hubie is set up to be kind of evil, or at least like out of touch or deranged in some way. Oh, I should say Adam Sandler and his love interest, his inexplicable love interest, who he fell in love with in the second grade. Yes, Violet Valentine.
Oh shit, I forgot her name.
Julie Bowen.
From Happy Gilmore, right?
Oh, I was
Billy Madison. One of those.
I forgot the actress's name. I was thinking I was going to call her the poor man so and so, but I forgot who. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, an inscrutable love story, which, you know, again, this guy lives in town. He's known everybody since he was a child. He's still hung up on this woman who he graduated with 30 years ago, which relatable. But I
want to go back to Steve Buscemi for a minute, because I just also want to fucking give Steve Buscemi his flowers. Absolutely the MVP of this movie. Every line he delivers, just he's so sly, and you know, I don't think he has any better material in this movie than anybody else, but just kind of does it all in a very low key kind of way. And I think got maybe the only actual laughs in this movie out of me. There's one bit towards the end, you know, I think we already kind of tipped our hands that he plays a werewolf. I guess that's a spoiler, but who gives a fuck? And at the end, there's just a kind of a choice moment where he drops a little like, woo woo, and it's just like a really low key little howl. Almost feels ad-libbed. There are some little moments in the credits, bloopers, where he clearly just like killed everybody on set with this in real life, and it's hilarious. He's great.
I think one of the biggest laughs in the movie to me, and this is where I'm going to admit I did watch this a second time too, but only because I had like forgotten quite a bit of it. It was torture, but it was on in the background while I was working. But when Steve Buscemi is introduced to Hubie, and he's talking about how, you know, you might see some strange things over at my house, but you know, don't pay any attention. In fact, it's important that you don't. And the way he delivers that line is so fucking funny to me. I laughed just as hard the second time around. He kills it. He puts so much thought and like effort into this otherwise really dumb role that serves no narrative function to the entire film.
It's very, very good. We got Kevin James in this shit. We got Ray Liotta. Just, oh my god, what? Ugh.
We got June Squibb.
Yeah, I mean,
the great June Squibb.
Didn't she was at least nominated for an Oscar at some point, right?
She was.
She didn't
for
win
Nebraska.
One?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like top tier talent, wearing fucking boner donor and muff diving t-shirts throughout the entire thing, just debasing herself at every corner.
I would debase myself if Adam Sandler called me up and said, "Hey, you want to fuck around in this movie and you'll get paid like a couple grand and we're just gonna have a good." You know what? Fuck the movies. This is probably just a great team to work with.
Oh, I'm sure they had a fantastic time.
They're probably having the best time of any fucking set. What, you want to fucking hang out with the fucking Paul Thomas Anderson in the fucking desert, fucking listening to him talk about fucking theme? Or do you want to just...
Yeah, I do.
Or do you want to go to Salem and hang out in like the coolest spooky town in America with a bunch of amazing people?
I don't think it was actually shot there, was it?
I think it was. I've been to Salem. It looked like it.
Yeah, well, wherever it was.
Salem wasn't that cool, though, dude. I got to register the hot take on that one.
We went on like a Sunday afternoon or something.
Tell me about your trip to Salem.
We were on an East Coast road trip. We went out to Boston. We stopped in Salem on the way up to Maine and other points. And I mean, yeah, like Steven says, we just wandered around downtown on a Sunday afternoon. We saw a witch statue. We went into a witch shop. I think we went into a comics shop. It was fine. It was a cool little downtown, I guess, but not like a vacation destination. I guess
Maybe
the same way that
there.
like Sandler has like taken people to fucking Africa or whatever to make movies before.
I wonder if I could move there.
It feels a lot like Monroe, except I don't know. Even in the short time we spent there, I could like feel the history, and I want to go back. I was planning to with my mom. Pre-COVID, so that's been postponed. But like, I want to actually go and like see where witches were fucking burned and shit.
It
like,
probably has
fun.
the most horror-related jobs per capita of anywhere in the U.S. Right, outside of
Washington D.C.
Oh, hot.
Grown.
That was my Bill Maher joke of the week.
I wish I could remember my Bill Maher joke about Halloween. It was hilarious.
So, I mean, here's my... I'm kind of somewhere in the middle on the experience that people had on set. If you watch these bloopers, you don't get the sense of people necessarily having fun. Weirdly, unlike most bloopers that you'll see in credits, no one is really like laughing at each other. It's just kind of a series of shots of Adam Sandler doing alternate, like, extreme reacts to being scared. I don't know if people were necessarily having fun making this movie, but I agree with the idea that, hey, they're fucking actors. They gotta work. Sandler probably paid them well. Netflix paid them well. What else are you going to do, And who are we to sit here and be like, yeah, stupid plot and it wasn't actually funny. They're making money. They're doing their job.
I feel like we're trying to talk about this movie on completely the wrong metrics. Very simple movie. We probably should have only spent 5 minutes. I would rather just talk about Salem than talk about this movie anymore, to be honest.
I've got a proposal. We should talk about who we thought the madman was going to be, and we should go to the spoiler room, reveal it, and
we haven't talked about the thermos yet, though, have we?
Oh, the thermos.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I loved it. I loved it.
The most obnoxious fucking thing. But it's very Pee-wee. It's very Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Adam Sandler, or I just call him Hubie. How can you forget that name like I usually do? He's got this thermos that he built in like the Eagle Scouts or something that is just like an all-purpose gadget that also dispenses absolutely disgusting soup that he drinks throughout the entire film. But
it's a multi-purpose tool. It's a vacuum. It's a fucking... What else does he use it for? It does everything.
It's everything.
It's a flare gun. He can catch things with it. It's a radio.
Hook.
It's a... Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, why not? And you know what? I don't need an explanation of that. Just this random guy has this, like, sci-fi thermos that does everything. Yeah, why not? Fuck it. It's great.
I'm having an existential crisis right now because Pee-wee's Big Adventure is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And Steven is... I can't argue with what Steven just said, that this thermos is totally Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And I love every single thing about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's a perfect film. There's nothing I would criticize about it. And I can't figure out what's the crucial distinction that makes me hate this thermos but love Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
The distinction is probably you grew up with Pee-wee and you saw this as a jaded 30-year-old man.
No. See?
No.
Okay, here's an interesting window into my childhood. My parents didn't let me watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure because there was a gun in it. It was rated PG, and at one point Mickey pulls out a gun, and my mom even described it to me because I wanted to watch it because I liked Pee-wee's Playhouse. I was a big Pee-wee fan, and I was like, "Can I watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure?" And she was like, "No, he pulls out a gun in it." And I'm like, this still boggles my mind because it's like, okay, so I know there's a gun now. Like, you've explained it to me. Why is it okay for me to know there's a gun, but not to like watch him pull out a gun in the movie? So anyway, long story short, I didn't see Pee-wee's Big Adventure until, I don't know how old I was, but at least mid-teens probably.
I have a very serious question. When you first saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which I feel like we were friends by that point, that you'd become a fan of the movie, were you like, was this like a Chekhov situation where you watched the movie in anticipation of the gun being revealed in horror?
I mean, not in horror, but there was a certain degree of like, how is the gun going to fit into this? Because it was an element that I already knew was there. And I was like, okay, how is this going to play out? And I think it's one of those weird things, this is the classic argument, I guess, against censorship. I already know it's going to be there, and whatever you imagine, whatever the use of it is going to be, it can't possibly be as horrifying as how it's been described to you at this point,
Yeah. I guess it is kind of like a reverse Chekhov's gun, but like, did you have like nightmares thinking about Pee-wee and a gun as a kid after your mom told you this?
You know, as a young child, however old I was, I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that. I think I did. I think it did kind of spook me when she told me about it originally. I do have vague memories of that.
And this is why you love guns today and can't buy enough of them.
Wait, can I take us back to eggs for a moment? Because I rewatched this movie.
Not yet, because I want to know. Does this mean you didn't see anything with a gun in it? Like, what about Batman and stuff like that?
Oh, I didn't see... Listen, dude. Like, fucking...
Did you grow up on VeggieTales exclusively? I
remember when Star Wars Episode 1 came out, 1999, I would have been 11. I was like praying that it would be rated G because I wasn't allowed to watch PG movies. And I was like, I kept telling my mom, I was like, I think it's going to be rated G. And she was like, I don't think so. I don't think so.
There's laser guns in it.
Darth Maul is in that movie.
When the Sam Raimi Spider-Man came out, we had to wait for that to come out on VHS, of course, because we weren't going to see it in the theaters. And my parents pre-screened it, and they were like, nah, the ending's too violent. And you know what? To be fair, the ending is pretty violent, but still, I mean, who gives a fuck? I was 13 or whatever. A kid can see the Green Goblin get rammed through with a glider.
So PG stands for parental guidance. Were your parents just not big on providing you guidance while watching media?
I feel like too much guidance. I feel like they decided their guidance was just going to be, don't watch the movie.
I feel like it's supposed to be, we're going to watch it with you. And then we're going to talk about it later. And if there's anything that disturbed you about it, it's like, it's mellow enough in the grand scheme of things that like, we can work a child through this and they won't be scarred afterward. Unless we're talking Gremlins, but that's a whole other story.
I mean, Spider-Man still kind of gets me because I feel like my mom didn't screen it too well because years later, I mean, this is maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. I don't know, it's in my 20s. And she brought up Willem Dafoe and she's like, oh, yeah, you know, that guy that played the Green Glob or whatever his name was in Spider-Man.
The Green Glob. I love it. He will forever be known as the Green Glob. It doesn't matter what role he's playing in a film.
All right. So what do you got about eggs, Steven? What you know about eggs?
I mean, so we were talking about eating eggs earlier. The thermos in the first... I guess the second scene in the movie when we're introduced to Hubie, he's riding through town, everybody's giving him shit, and a bunch of kids toss eggs at him because it's like Devil's Night, you know, and they're all being little shits, and he catches all these eggs.
And later, it should be noted, they literally give him shit.
That's true.
Bags of flaming shit.
That's true, and that's an Adam Sandler trope. So, yeah, they're lobbing eggs at him. He catches them all with the thermos, and then he sucks them all down, Rocky Balboa style, as he says. And then almost immediately, and I did laugh because it's so crass, almost immediately after he says Rocky Balboa style, he lets out this, like, exorcist spew of vomit off the side of his bike as he's driving down the street. I don't know.
It has its moments. Like, yeah, dude, like, it's a funny movie. I dare anyone to watch this whole movie and not laugh twice. Maybe no more, but you'll laugh twice. I laughed twice.
Are we including Steve Buscemi bits in that?
Yeah, we're including the whole movie.
Oh, okay, sure. I'll get along with that.
I laughed. It's like not like, oh, this is a well-crafted, well-written situational joke. There's just dumb shit that is fucking funny. The asthma inhaler gag got me.
Wow. Well, I will say, I think
I'm losing my shit just thinking about it.
Do you need an asthma inhaler right now? Talking about, and I saw this twice.
He's in the police station for no reason, and I don't even think he uses the inhaler before or after. He takes an asthma inhaler out and uses it, and then for like the next 2 minutes, every time the cop's talking to him, he's just exhaling inhaler spray.
Well, I will say, Chris, to your laughs challenge, I will say I think there is an inverse relationship in this film with how often you laugh and how often you are offended. Because there is some pretty borderline offensive stuff in this. Like, I don't think it ever goes too far, but it's crass as hell. I mean, there's a whole extended joke at the end of the movie that involves where Hubie is like viscerally and wildly uncomfortable, I would say, because of a man and a woman who each speak in voices of the opposite gender, and it goes on for way too long.
Oh man, yeah, we should dig into that a little more in the spoiler room. But yeah, that was big cringe.
Guys, I love being the woke police. I don't think I can get on board with that being problematic.
I'm not saying I was offended, but I can certainly see folks who might be, and I wouldn't fault them for it.
It's not even necessarily a woke police thing. I mean, there's to some degree, I guess it's offensive, but mostly it's just offensively stupid.
Yes. Okay, yeah, there we go.
That's my pull quote on this whole movie. To some degree, it's offensive, but mostly it's just offensively stupid. That's my pull quote.
What? You're too fucking good for this movie? Like, who cares?
No, I mean, listen, I already acknowledged a minute ago the folly, essentially, of critiquing this movie at all. There's essentially no point, because nobody was setting out to impress us. They were setting out to do a job. Netflix paid them to do a thing because a certain number of people will sign up for Netflix to watch these movies. They did their job.
And
you know what? I applaud them.
It worked. You know what? It worked. They delivered, because I read a couple days ago, this is Netflix's most watched movie of 2020.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You know what?
Shit.
Good. God bless him. I'm less offended by this than I am fucking Bird Box.
Oh, I was just about to drop a Bird Box in there so you could put the sound in.
Like, this movie does what it sets out to do. There's an audience for this movie. It's forgettable. There's laughs in there. Fuck it.
So I actually want to respond to Chris's challenge from earlier about laughing twice. I think I only laughed twice at the two Steve Buscemi moments that we already mentioned, but then I realized there is a third bit that kind of made me smirk. The Harley Quinn bit is kind of funny.
Oh, it's kind of brilliant.
Except they overplay it. They point out the fact that they're all wearing Harley Quinn costumes, and it honestly would be fucking funnier if they were just wearing Harley Quinn costumes and no one referenced it.
And then they abandoned the bit because later, towards the end of the movie, there's another news report, but the news reporter is not just as Harley Quinn. And I was like, they should have brought it back.
Well, I will say on the Harley Quinn bit, I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Yes, there is a lot of like Adam Sandler or other characters stating the obvious or stating exposition or stating text that is on the screen, like when Adam Sandler is like Hubie is reading through his yearbook, and it's all like the largest font possible, and he has to read it aloud to you.
This movie isn't made for people who can fucking read.
But the Harley Quinn bit comes back because there's a little girl in the same slutty Harley Quinn costume later in the movie, trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Very
I loved it. It was great.
It should also be noted that someone lost their job over that bit. Like the newscaster who's dressed up as Harley Quinn is a real-life newscaster and lost her job because of something contractual. She said it was something contractual due to her appearance in the movie.
Well, I hope DC hires her because she deserves better.
All right, should we review this fucking thing?
Absolutely. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't, but I don't think we have the option not to. I'll go first. And here's the thing. I'm gonna be a little bit of a Patrick on this. I'm gonna give it a cue it, but I'll say that for most reasonable people, it's a screw it. I think if you're going this expecting the dumbest possible Adam Sandler Halloween based family comedy or attempt at a family comedy, you will still be disappointed because I think I really went in with the right mind frame and I got something a lot weaker than I was hoping for. But, what can you say? I have no ill will towards this movie. It's fun enough. I didn't get bored. It kind of sucks, but, if you want to watch a movie called Hubie Halloween where the character talks unintelligibly the whole movie, you could do worse. You could probably also do better. So cue it. Steven.
Chris, I will co-sign everything you just said. Like, I went into this thinking, like, this is at least going to be fun if I get myself pretty drunk and I'm in just like the most relaxed, easy pleasing mood possible, and it's still like kind of hard to get through. There's some good laughs. The Halloween atmosphere is great, even though the cinematography is kind of awful in places, which Patrick and I both were a little irked by. And so this was recommended actually shortly after this became an assignment for us. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Rebecca McKendry, who does a lot with the Fangoria Network. She's the only person I've ever heard of who has a doctorate in horror studies. And even she was like, you know what? If you can just accept that it's an Adam Sandler movie set on Halloween and expect nothing from it except crass jokes, it's a great time. I disagree with that for like 90% of this movie. However, I'm going to give it a Q. I think the moments that worked, the moments that made me laugh, that made me nostalgic for, the Happy Madison movies of the 90s and early 2000s, they worked well enough on me at least. It's a very particular kind of taste that won't appeal to everyone, which is why I'm giving it a Q. Just going middle of the road here. Patrick? Very curious. Oh, wow. Total
Big
shocker.
Screw it. Watched this drunk, hated it. Watched it sober, still hated it. I don't know. And especially on top of everything else, I just got to game the average. Like, there's so much shit that we've watched that we've given screw its to that is better than this. And I even if I'm being my most humane, forgiving self, saying, hey, it's just Adam Sandler doing his job, which I've already indicated it is, I still can't contribute to this falling higher in our ranking than, oh my god, so many movies.
Yeah,
so
and I mean, is another movie that got like 3 Q-its from us would be like Cam.
Which is so much better than this.
I want to go back right now and give Cam a view it compared to everything we've seen
time
since.
travel only exists in the movies, Steven. You have to live with the consequences of your actions.
All right, well, before we go down to the spoiler room, I have 2 things to say about this. One is the normal thing. Go to the website, everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com, click the buy merch link, get our t-shirt, subscribe to us, review us on your podcast provider of choice. It helps people find the show, and we love to see the feedback. And follow us on your social media at EHMONcast. The second thing is, what are the guesses for the Madman? We already know Chris doesn't have one. He thought it, or no, you didn't think it was Steve Buscemi. That was a tangent. Chris didn't have one.
I didn't think about that. I was just like, how are all these characters connected, and where have I seen this actor before? Oh, that's the guy from The Shield. Why is the fucking guy from The Shield playing a fucking walk-on part as like a priest in this movie? Oh wait, it's Adam Sandler. He just hires C-list celebrities that he happens to be friends with for every fucking role.
To be clear, Michael Chiklis from The Shield is not the Madman. Chris, I'm just curious. If you were to cast your mind back, you see this Madman wearing a mask. The movie is building him up as, a mystery man. What do you think your guess would have been at that point if you were in a guessing mood? Taking
myself back to that moment, I think I was thinking it was going to end up being like Gary Busey playing himself.
Oh my God.
Perfect.
Great
Steven,
guess.
remind me of your guess.
Let me say first. So, I think we were all pretty certain that the Madman was not an actor we'd seen on screen before. We know he has long blonde hair because we only ever see him from behind or with a mask on or something. So I thought, who is in this movie? Who is not in this movie that is in the Adam Sandler stable of dipshits who has blonde hair? I thought it might be that obvious. So my guess was David Spade.
Oh, yeah. Or Luke Wilson.
Well, I went Owen Wilson, who is the one with blonde hair.
Oh, yeah, I never keep them straight. I never know which one's which.
But also, I think that guess was informed somewhat by the fact that I mixed up the movie The Wedding Singer with Wedding Crashers. Like Steven and Allison with a Y were talking about The Wedding Singer and how they like the movie, and I was like, with Vince Vaughn, and they're like, what?
No, the Wedding Singer stands out in my memory as like the best Adam Sandler comedy.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
1,000,000%. I love
I
it.
should check it out.
Yeah.
Well, no spoilers yet, but the Madman was in The Wedding Singer. I should say the actor.
I don't even know who the madman was, so someone else will have to spoil it for us. When we go to the spoiler room, which will happen right now. We're going to the spoiler room. So yeah, do everything Patrick said. Send us a message. Tell us what you thought of Hubie Halloween. And if you let us know if you had to watch it with the subtitles on or off. And then, yeah, if you want to know the identity of the killer and so much more, follow us down to the spoiler room. Otherwise...
Oh, and send me your mailing address if you want some candy.
Yeah, send this creepy guy whose voice you've only ever heard online your address. Do that. No harm will come to you, I'm sure. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're down here in the spoiler room, ready to spoil everything about Hubie Halloween, the Adam Sandler thriller. And yeah, so you guys tell me, who the hell was the actual, or who... Oh, well, I know who the maniac ended up being. What I want to know is who escaped from the asylum.
Oh,
Wait,
I guess we
what?
should have clarified. Well, who escaped from the asylum was Rob Schneider.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right. The villain, an absolute villain, off screen as well as on screen.
Well, and also just kind of perfectly in keeping. Like, I think all of our guesses, including yours, Chris, where you cast your mind back, I think they are all, like, perfectly on point. But Rob Schneider is also, like, of course it's Rob Schneider.
He just,
He fits into this tapestry of bullshit perfectly.
Yeah.
And this movie, I think this movie wants you to guess. And, I mean, I guess it's clear that they want you to guess because there's a misdirect in the reveal. Rob Schneider doesn't have long blonde hair. Like, they have to make him look a little different so you're surprised that it's him.
Yeah.
Right?
But
yeah. Anyway,
Rob
big dumb
Schneider's
reveal.
just playing
Doesn't
Rob
matter.
Schneider. The actual maniac is that none other than Hubie's mother.
June Squibb.
Sure. And basically her motivation is, everyone in the town's been being so mean to Hubie, so she as a good caring mother has gone out on Halloween night, somehow been able to overpower people like Ray Liotta, not by a little, but by a lot, like sending these fuckers just flying into the cornfields and stuff, like they're being pulled by a supernatural force. And she's kidnapped them all, she ties them up, and she's going to burn them all at the stake because they've been bullying her little boy. And that cannot be allowed to stand.
Yeah, essentially it's like a Sunday special anti-bullying message all of a sudden for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, which
Or what do they call it? No, after school special. Why didn't I say Sunday special?
Yeah, after school special, and Hubie's mom really delivers after school special dialogue for pretty much the entire movie. It's like the second scene of the movie where like Hubie comes home and she's like, "Hubie, you need to learn this lesson in this movie today."
Yeah, she talks about how boner means mistake. That's what you mean, right?
Right, sure.
Yeah, that's an enduring joke throughout this movie.
And that's basically it. That's it. And she ends up escaping into the woods. Everyone survives. Hubie ends up falling in love with the blonde heroine from high school.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy the scene where we thought she was the killer.
I feel like that's the wrong syntax. Hubie has been in love. She falls in love with him.
She's been in love with him too. He fell in love with her in the second grade, and then she responds, "I fell in love with you in the first grade. Why weren't you in love with me?"
Sure.
And he said he was in love with his 70-year-old teacher, and then he fell in love with her the next year. Why do I remember this so well? I don't know. I'm a little disappointed in myself.
But yeah, it's one of those movies where there's no real motivation for them to fall in love other than, hey, they're in love, happy ending. And
we're supposed to believe, in spite of his strangeness and his gross behavior and his lack of development, she falls in love with him because he's a fundamentally good person. Looks don't matter, guys. Looks don't matter.
That's a beautiful thing.
Sure, it moved me. I cried.
Yeah. Great film. That's your movie. That's Hubie Halloween.
I mean, really, what else is there to say? Oh, another actor who fucking debases himself in this is Tim Meadows. God bless Tim Meadows, but Jesus, I don't know if an actor in general has ever been more consistently wasted than Tim Meadows. Oh, also the actor who we talked about before, who hilariously had a different tone of voice than you expect him to have, is Shaq. Like, we hear an apparently female voice on the radio throughout this movie, and late in the game, it's revealed, LOL, it's Shaq.
Yeah, that was funny. Fuck you guys.
Nah.
That was funny? Like, I guess I don't really get the joke, except that it's not the person you would expect after hearing this voice the entire time, but I didn't really take any delight in seeing Shaq appear in a movie, which I feel is the whole point of the bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't feel delight in seeing Shaq appear in a movie, it's gonna fall flat.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, but it ain't 1996 anymore.
I look to more in movies than cameo appearances, I guess.
Oh, well,
like, I expect there to be some meat
then
to
watch
them.
a different movie.
I mean, I will, now that I've watched this twice.
I'm willing to share my we can talk about my glasses now.
Oh, what?
So
We've been dancing around this for like a year now.
We've been dancing around this for some months, but longtime listeners may remember I talked about making a really stupid purchase, and I didn't want to talk about it.
Turns out this is Did you pick this movie, Chris, so you could talk about your glasses?
No, but it works out that way really nicely. So basically, a few months ago, there was an auction put on by A24, the famed film producer distribution company, and they made Uncut Gems. And mostly as a meme, I placed a significant wager on an item from this auction. I kind of accidentally won it. Cost a stupid amount of money, but I own the sunglasses from Uncut Gems. Not sunglasses like the ones in Uncut Gems, but the ones that were actually on the Sandman's face. I'm wearing them as I speak to you right now.
You own one pair of sunglasses from the movie that is featured through a particular portion of the film, right?
Yes,
There's multiple.
It's the only sunglasses he wears in the movie, though.
Oh, I thought he had multiple pairs. Okay,
he has
never mind.
multiple pairs
His
of
glasses are
glasses.
just distinctive in general. Okay.
Yes, he's got normal glasses and he's got sunglasses, but these are the glasses from the climax of the film. These are the glasses from the "This is how I win" meme. So not only is it a piece of motion picture history, it's a piece of meme history, and they're mine, and it's a prized possession. And I just feel the Sandman's energy when I wear them.
You might be too humble to say it, but the money also did go to a great cause, right?
Oh yeah, you would have to put me down if this money went to anything other than this charity. It was during the height of the pandemic. Well, what was the height of the pandemic before the height that we're going to experience next month? The money went to fund a shelter in New York City that was doing a whole bunch of work around the pandemic to help people out, and it was a charity auction. And I bid with the assumption I would be outbid, but much like Uncut Gems, it didn't go that way. And
have you learned nothing, Chris?
They look great.
and we'll share a photo of them on our social media, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Can you grow out a mustache first? Like, not for Uncut Gems, but for Hubie Halloween. I want to see what Hubie would look like wearing these sunglasses.
We should just Photoshop the current lower half of my face onto Chris's face and post that, because I have a mustache right now.
Oh, there we go.
Talk about things that should be put to death if they ever existed in reality.
Hey, fuck you, buddy. Hey, another interesting fact. So we were talking about, if this movie were to get 3 Qs, whatever. You know what else got 3 Qs? John Carpenter's Halloween.
Really? Well, it got a view.
Well,
too.
and a view, but it did get 3 Qs.
Yeah.
Can't. Well, I even despite my mixed feelings on John Carpenter's Halloween, I can't put this in that same company.
I can't decide for myself in my mind right now which movie has a more lagging pace. Actually, I stand by my cue. It's to both.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. Well, is it time to start throwing some dirt onto the still living body of Hubie Halloween?
Damn, did that happen in this movie?
That did happen in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the jokes.
It ruined
Hubie interrupts a funeral, falls into the grave, and then they start throwing
Oh,
dirt
right.
onto
They
him.
bury him alive, like in Casino.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm this movie. This is dead. This conversation's dead. I'm just, I'm still down to meme for a few minutes, but I don't even know if we got that in us at this point.
Believe it or
wrap it
not,
up.
I have other things I could say about this movie, but I'm not going to, for the sake of our time and sanity.
Yeah, let's get the fuck out of here.
All right, let's get the fuck out of here. So it's Patrick's turn to pick the next movie. So tough act to follow, Patrick. What's it gonna be?
Yes. So, and I'm just going to preface this by saying you guys have been perhaps spared from a few selections because Netflix did a fucking bloodletting after Halloween. Like a bunch of things that were on my list of potential picks have disappeared. You're off the hook for Paranormal Activity. You're off the hook for Scary Movie. You're off the hook for Sleepy Hollow.
What movie are we watching?
All right, here's what I'm picking. And here's even more preamble. So, you've all heard me talk about Hannibal on this show way too fucking much. I've been talking about it since quarantine. I've been making my way through the TV show Hannibal since way too long. So
I know what we're watching.
Do you though?
Oh yeah, I do.
I think I do too.
Finally finished watching the show. What do you think we're watching?
Red Dragon.
We are watching Red Dragon. I thought you might guess Silence of the Lambs. I think that's another
new.
thing that
I'm
got...
no new.
I think Silence of the Lambs got fucking cut from Netflix after Halloween 2. Yeah, we're watching Brett Ratner's Red Dragon because it's adapted in the final half of season 3 of Hannibal. And I have seen this movie before, but I'm kind of curious to revisit it and see its take on the Red Dragon story, which was most famously done on film by Michael Mann in Manhunter. But yeah, Brett Ratner's Red Dragon.
I am Philip Seymour Hoffman right now, and you are just tying me to a chair and making me watch this shit. That I
was going to say, I have two. I saw this movie in theaters. Neither of these moments are spoilers for the movie, but there are two things I remember, and only two things. There's Philip Seymour Hoffman in the wheelchair and what eventually happens to him, which I laughed out loud at.
Me too.
And there's Ray Fiennes' penis as he's running up the stairs naked. It was the first time I'd seen a penis in a movie, and might have changed me a little bit.
Chris, have you seen this movie or Manhunter?
Oh yeah, I've seen Red Dragon. I've seen Silence of the Lambs. I've seen Hannibal. I've seen Brett Ratner's Red Dragon. They're great films.
We have to refer to it as Brett Ratner's Red Dragon upon all references.
My favorite in the trilogy, controversial opinion, Hannibal. I love Hannibal.
I almost want to rewatch it now so that I can have an official hot take on that. I feel like I disagree. I haven't seen Young Hannibal. But I have seen, obviously, Silence of the Lambs. Also one of my favorite movies of all time, Red Dragon and Hannibal. I remember Hannibal. I don't know. I don't remember. We'll see. I don't remember much about Red Dragon.
All right. Well, I guess that's that then. So in 2 weeks we'll be back. We'll be watching some Hollywood shit, some A-list shit. This is a movie. This movie actually came out. This movie was in theaters. This movie had celebrities. This movie has Sir Anthony Hopkins and Sir Ralph Fiennes.
Well,
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes. What are they, brothers?
No, it's Rafe. It's pronounced Rafe.
What? It's not Ralph?
Yeah. No.
I've been calling him Ralph my entire life. Rafe.
Well, if he ever finds out, he's going to wreck you.
Well, yeah, and this movie also had the weird distinction of being, some kind of like a return to quote-unquote form for the franchise that never should have been, because you have Hannibal, which turned out to be just this insane, lurid, like, off-the-rails thing
Can we
that
just
happened
watch Hannibal?
after Silence of the Lambs, and which was, roundly poorly received. And then it was like, oh, okay, we're going back to the roots. This is going to be like the prestige follow-up to Silence of the Lambs that we all deserve. But they hired Brett Ratner to direct it. And from what I remember, it doesn't necessarily... I don't know. It's just so weirdly middle of the road from what I remember. Like,
yeah,
it's certainly not the, like, memorable movie for the ages follow-up to Silence of the Lambs that we deserve, but also doesn't bear any of what I'm going to laughingly describe as the hallmarks of Brett Ratner direction. But anyway, we're going to discuss it next episode, not this one.
All right. Well, I guess that's that, guys. Hubie Halloween's in the books. We're moving on. 2 weeks. Red Dragon. You know where to find us. We'll be right here. Find us online if you want. Talk some shit. Troll us. Maybe we'll troll you back. But with that said, that's all we got. So for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Chris.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Steven.
See you next time.